Hey guys, it's Fidan. Today I've come up with a really delicious Battenberg cake recipe. So this is nothing but a chessboard cake. So I've uploaded a chessboard cake recipe earlier. You can go check it out in the link in the description down below. It's really simple to make. First step is to make vanilla cake and chocolate cake. That you can use any recipe you like, but then I'm showing you a sponge cake recipe. Both are going to be sponge cakes, the vanilla cake and the chocolate cake. And when you have carving, a lot of carving to do and also cutting and replacing, then you can always use sponge cakes because sponge cakes do not crumble a lot. There are not too much of crumbs, so it's easier to work with. That's the reason I'm showing you a sponge cake recipe. So you can go ahead and see that recipe and try it out. It's really delicious. Then after that, I'm going to be showing you how to make the marzipan. Marzipan is just with almonds, and then I'm using chocolate syrup for this because it's all based on chocolate. So I'm going to be using some chocolate syrup with almonds and powdered sugar, and you blend it up and you get a nice dough kind of consistency. Then it's a marzipan. You just have to roll it out and then keep it on the cake and cover it with it. It's really simple to make, so without any further ado, let's get on to making it. First, here I have an 8-inch square pan into which I'm going to spread some oil. So here I have a piece of foil. I'm going to keep it right in the middle. So we just have to drape the parchment paper on top of it and then keep it from on top of it, like this. The parchment paper should be kept somewhat like this. It should be on top of the foil so that nothing goes here and there. All of the batter should stay within each side. So if you have two pans, then you can use the two pans. But if you don't have two pans, this is the best way to do it. You need two same pans. First, for the chocolate sponge layer, here I have all the ingredients ready. So I have 1 egg. I'm going to separate the yolk and white and then use it for the batter. Then I have 2 tablespoons of sugar, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, 2 teaspoons of oil, and 1 tablespoon of milk. So first I'm going to separate the yolks and white. So I find it easier to use your hand and wave it back and forth so that all the yolk goes in. So you have to start beating the egg white and gradually add in the sugar. So here it is done. I've added in all the sugar and it doesn't have to become stiff peaks. It just have to be very droppy, a bit watery consistency like this. And into it I'm going to add in the egg yolk. If any of the egg yolk comes into the egg white, then the egg white will not beat up properly. So you need to make sure that there's no egg yolk in the egg white. So I've set the hand beater aside and we don't need the hand beater anymore. We're gonna use a spatula and fold all these ingredients lightly. So I'm gonna add in the flour. So my flour is pre-sifted and the cocoa powder is also pre-sifted. If yours is not, you can sift it right now. And now we have to fold it really slowly. Do not be too harsh with it because if you be harsh, then all the air bubbles will get depleted and then your batter will be really hard. So you need to keep it really slowly and fold it very gently. I'm going to pour in the milk and the oil into it. And all you gotta do is give it one final mix and incorporate the batter really well. Also going to pour in some vanilla extract. Next is the vanilla sponge. For that, here I have all the ingredients ready. I have 1 egg, and as we did before, we're going to separate the egg yolk and white and then beat it. 2 tablespoons of sugar, 3 tablespoons of all-purpose flour, 1 tablespoon of milk, 2 teaspoons of oil. And let's get on to making it. For that, into the bowl, crack in the egg. And as we did before, slowly add in the sugar and beat it. So here it is ready. You don't have to make it stiff peaks, just as droppy as it was before. This is the consistency. Into it, we're going to add in the egg yolk. Just beat it a little bit, and here the egg mixture is ready. Into it, we can add in the rest of the ingredients, and we can set the hand beater aside because we're going to fold the rest of the ingredients as we did before. I'm going to add in the all-purpose flour and just fold that a little bit, and then we can add in the wet ingredients. Add in the milk and the oil. Also pour in the vanilla extract. Let's tap it, and then we can keep this in a preheated oven for baking. Now my cake has baked completely and it is cooled also. You can let it cool in the pan itself, then take it out. That's the best thing to do always. And then you can insert a skewer and check if it is baked. If it comes out clean, then it's baked. You can take it out of the pan and place it onto a tray like this. Then we can make the chessboard impressions, that is the Battenberg impressions. For that, keep the cake on top of each other and then cut it right through the middle. So you'll get 2 slices of each of the cake. Then you have to replace it. In the bottom layer, there should be 1 chocolate and 1 vanilla. And on top of it, the respective colors. And this is what it should look like. A checkered cake. And now that it's done, we can trim off the sides and just shape it a little bit so that when we put the marzipan on top, it's going to stay good. So just trim off the sides. You don't have to cut a lot of it because the cake has come really perfect, but just to trim the sides off to make it even. And as you can see, there are not much crumbs. Though the cake is really soft, it doesn't break apart that easily. It's a very firm but soft cake. And now we have to stick these with chocolate sauce. You're going to spread chocolate sauce onto one side. And this chocolate sauce is actually homemade. I made it at home. If you want, you can use Hershey's chocolate sauce that you can buy from outside. It's really easy to make. All you need is 2 tablespoons of butter with half a teaspoon of cocoa powder and around 100 milliliters of cream. You just have to pour all of these together, melt it up, and then it should come in a consistency like this. Do the same thing with the next layer also. Just spread some chocolate sauce on one side and then stick it together. Next, you have to stick the 2 stuck layers together So just spread chocolate sauce on each side and then you can stick it together. You don't need too much of chocolate sauce like we do for frosting. You just need a little bit so that it sticks together. And especially do not spread a lot of chocolate sauce on the white cake, because as it is white, the syrup may get in and it might get the color of the cake a little bit dirty. Now just press it all together and I'm just going to keep it aside. You can keep this in the refrigerator so that everything gets set really well. So I'm just going to keep it in the refrigerator. Next, while it is refrigerating, we can make the marzipan. For that, take your food processor, then put in 1 cup of almond flour, half a cup of powdered sugar, 1 tablespoon of cocoa powder, and then you can close the lid and blend it all together until it's nice and really fine. So you need to use really fine almond flour so that the marzipan is really smooth and nice. And if it is not that smooth, you can blend it again and again. Next, I'm going to pour in 1/4 cup of chocolate sauce. This is the same chocolate sauce I used to stick the cake together. Pour that in and then blend it until it becomes a nice dough. You just need to process it. And it should come to a nice and soft dough. Just a dough kind of consistency. And if it is not a dough consistency, which is if it is sticky, then you can add in a little bit of cocoa powder, not too much. And now here the dough is ready. It shouldn't be a sticky dough, then it's gonna be hard to roll out. So it should be a really nice and smooth dough like this. I mean, it's not a dough, but it should be a dough consistency. Next we can roll it out. For that, here I have a parchment paper. I'm gonna keep the parchment paper on bottom and then keep the dough on top. And again, I'm going to keep a parchment paper on top. Press that out and then you can roll it to a nice and thin size. It should be really thin. And you should make sure you use a wax paper, parchment paper or any sort of baking paper underneath, or else the dough will stick onto the board and also to the rolling pin. Once you have rolled it out really nice and thin, then you can remove the parchment paper. And pour some more chocolate sauce on top of it and spread it out like this so that the cake sticks onto the marzipan. The cake should really stick onto the marzipan. That's the reason why we're spreading the chocolate sauce onto the marzipan. Now keep the cake on top of it like that and drape one side onto the top and pull out the parchment paper. Be very careful because it's going to be a little hard to work with. Drape the other side again and overlap it. It's fine if there is any excess, you can cut it off. And pull off the parchment paper. I'm just going to use a knife and cut off the excess and pull it out. And if there are any seams, just smoothen it out with your hands. Next, we need to transfer this to the plate. For that, I'm picking the wax paper up. Take it with the wax paper and then you can flip it over onto the plate. Slowly pull off the parchment paper and the top is ready. Now we have to cut off the excess at the sides. Just like that, and then just pull it off. Doing the same thing on the other side. I have a lot of seams on the top, so I'm just going to use the same parchment paper and then rub it on top. and it should look somewhat like this. Next I'm going to cut the front part off so that you can see the impressions really well. So that is how it should look. That's really nice. Then just to make the top look a little bit more prettier, I'm just gonna use the knife and use the back of the knife and just make little cuts like this and make checkers on top. Just like that, go either side and you'll get blocks like that. And then here the cake is ready. You can slice it off and it's really delicious. I hope everybody tries it out. And as you can see, the cake is really soft and it's not that crumbly also. Thank you so much for watching this video. Hope you liked it, and if you did, please don't forget to like, share, subscribe and also send your feedbacks in the comment box. Thanks for watching. Love cooking. Bye bye.